to the October 5th, 2011 meeting of the not October 5th.
11th.
October 11th.
I'm sorry, the October 11th meeting of the Easthampton School Committee. We will start with general announcements. And I guess I get to make the first one here, right?
Mm-hmm.
The first one is that the meeting is being recorded for transcription purposes by Easthampton Public Access Cable. And the second is that we are delighted to have the full complement of school committee members this evening because the students at Easthampton High School have elected Ryan Judd, a member of the class of 2012, to be the student school committee student representative, and we're delighted to have you here, Ryan. And
Welcome.
Thank you, Ryan.
you're not allowed to change your mind now, okay? But we will look forward to your input. We're a relatively young school committee in terms of our tenure, and we've known well 3 of your predecessors, right? I think I've known 3 former student representatives. They've done a great job, and we'll look forward to having your input. Not only do they inform us about events that are going on in the school, which is great to get the student perspective on that and sort of the latest news, but when we talk about substantive policy matters, the students who came and spoke earlier this year during the budget discussions about the way the budget would impact the curriculum, and they came and they spoke very thoughtfully, and it was difficult, but it was really important to have their input, and we don't want you to hesitate in sharing your thoughts individually or on behalf of the students that you represent, and we really look forward to you participating fully in our process here.
Definitely looking forward to it, so thank you for having me.
Great. Okay, so I think the remainder of the announcements are yours, yes?
Did you do this one?
The next regular,
No.
yeah, I did.
You did
I
that
did that one. I said we were being recorded for transcription. It's on the recording.
Okay. All right, then it's my turn. The next regular scheduled school committee meetings are October 25th and November 8th. The school committee meetings are now held at 50 Payson Avenue, 2nd floor. There are half days of school on Thursday and Friday, October 27th and 28th. There's a half day of school on Tuesday, November 8th, due to Teacher Professional Development Day and city elections. There is no school on Friday, November 11th, due to Veterans Day. There's a half day of school on Wednesday, November 23rd, and no school on Thursday and Friday, November 24th and 25th, due to the Thanksgiving holiday. And I also wanted to announce tonight that the No Child Left Behind NCLB report cards are now available. The report cards contain information on enrollment, teacher qualifications, and MCAS data for the district and for our individual schools. These report cards will be available online at the district website. There will be a copy at each building at the front desk, and a copy at the library for any of you to look at. There will also be an all-call going out to all parents, so if that's not easily accessible for you, any of those venues for the NCLB report cards, you can also call your building to request a paper copy be sent to you, but the all-call will have information on how to acquire the NCLB report cards.
And I actually had one other announcement. This Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, there is a terrific professional development seminar colloquium being held at UMass with professors coming from Princeton and Williams and Amherst and Smith and UMass and Hampshire and scholars all around from academia doing presentations on various aspects of the Civil War. We are in the sesquicentennial of that signal historical event, and I think it is noteworthy that among the presenters on Saturday, all of them are members of either university, college, or law school faculties, with one exception. Kelly Brown from Easthampton High School is one of the presenters and participants. And once again, you can't get anywhere else in the valley but here in Easthampton, where we have faculty who are qualified to work in that environment and with that level of colleagues. So I think it's terrific for Kelly. I think it's terrific for her students, and it's another reflection of the great things that go on at Easthampton Public Schools. Thanks. Correspondence.
We received one correspondence from a parent asking us to review our district's busing policy, and in particular the fee or fill the fill the bus policy and the fees associated with that. And students getting to be on the bus if they can pay for that, if there's empty spaces on the bus. So I'm not sure how you want to proceed with that.
We move
Today.
that to the policy subcommittee for review of that correspondence.
Motion made to move it to policy subcommittee. Is there a second?
Second.
And I would also like to thank the parent and apologize publicly. I thought that I had responded. I knew that Superintendent Follansby was responding at length, and we see that correspondence here. I apologize that my response was not delivered, and but I look forward to the opportunity to discuss the suggestions that are made in the correspondence at our next subcommittee on policy meeting. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you very much. Is there any other correspondence? Okay, and I didn't see gifts this go-round. Did I miss it? Are there gifts?
No gifts.
No gifts. Let's work on that, folks. We like this part. It's a nice opportunity to say thank you to various folks in the community, and gifts are always welcome. You don't have to wait until later, in the gift-giving season to give gifts. Is there anyone here who would like to speak on a matter where you haven't been invited to speak on something on the agenda? It doesn't look like it, so I guess we'll keep going. Okay, so then we have subcommittee reports for discussion. The finance subcommittee?
We have not met, and I know we need to make a meeting, so I will be in touch with Andy, and we will be getting a meeting together very soon.
Terrific, thank you. And the policy subcommittee, we do have some minutes that have been submitted. Ladonna.
Yes, and we mentioned those at our last meeting. We do have our next meeting set for November 21st to continue discussions on, well, it'll be the bus policy, also substitute teacher policy, and the advertising policy. You did receive in your packet the one page, and then you received another packet today with both pages in your emails. So.
LaDonna, what time is your meeting on the 21st?
Did I put it there? No. Okay. 6:30. Was it 6?
I thought it was 6.
6 o'clock? Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Terrific. Anything else? Are we good? Questions for LaDonna? Thanks very much. How about a CS update?
Nope, we have not met.
Okay. All right, so then, Ryan, you're on.
Okay, I know it's early in the school year, so we're still getting used to classes and everything. But so far, so good. I know that everyone's enjoying their classes, everyone's having a good time. One thing that I have heard among students is that the lunches seem to be lacking. I mean, I bring my own lunch, so I don't really know, the experience that they're having, but I have heard that they feel like they're paying too much for what they're getting. They feel like they're not getting enough food for the price that they're paying. That's really the only issue that I've heard so far. I know that we just had, extracurricular activities are going well. We just had our first Friday, which I don't know if you guys know what that is.
What is that?
It's pretty much a talent show, and anybody can join from the school. Anybody that's interested can do it. And they have themes, and the theme they just had was a Halloween theme. So you could dress up as like Dracula or, whatever you wanted to do and join that. So it's a good way for kids to get involved.
Through the drama club.
Yeah, through the drama club.
What's the theme for November? Do we know? Did they announce that?
I'm assuming something with Thanksgiving, but they haven't announced it.
Okay.
They do different themes all the time. But sports, I know is going well. The soccer team, I know a lot of kids on the soccer team. They say they really enjoy it. I'm on the golf team. At times it's a struggle, but it's a lot of fun. But yeah, that's pretty much what's happening at school. I can find out more for the next meeting. I'm sorry, I feel a little unprepared because it's my first time, but
You did fine.
That's
Thank
okay.
you.
Appreciate
That's
it.
good.
any questions?
That's good to know.
Well, yeah, follow-up. So is it, you think it's I know you don't have the lunch there, but you think it's a quantity, not quality?
Yes. I did have the lunch last year, and I felt the same way, that it was a little bit small portions, but for the actual food, I mean, it tasted good. It was
Food
just,
was good, just not enough.
yeah. That's the main concern. So.
Yeah, people don't
We'll
generally
look into that.
complain when it's in the reverse.
Yeah, right.
Too much of a bad meal is not a problem, not enough of a good meal. Okay. Well, thank you, Ryan. Are there other matters for discussion? I didn't think so. Okay. So I think we're actually gonna zip right into your report, Nancy, on student enrollment, yes?
Right.
Okay.
We have the information from the October 1st reports, and our student enrollment is up slightly by about 25 students overall. But some of the pieces to think about and to notice over last year is that our kindergarten enrollment this year is up over last year around by 12 students. Our total elementary is about the same, just up a couple of students. Our enrollment in 5th grade is up substantially from 119 last year to 143 this year. So we're excited about that.
For folks who don't know, just is it fair to point, I mean, I think it's important, am I characterizing it fairly? Those are transition points. Kindergarten is an entry point, 5th grade, these are transition places where people are saying, we really want to be part of the elementary school program in Easthampton. We really want to be part of the middle school program in Easthampton. That the numbers sort of between 1, 2, 3, 4, that could be people moving in and moving out. But the 5th grade and kindergarten are really big years.
Yes,
Okay.
I'd say that's accurate. As you know from our earlier meetings, we took in 10 students of choice this year in kindergarten, so that was exciting news. Students from other areas who wanted to come and be part of our kindergartens. And I guess those are sort of the highlights.
How does the 9th grade number compare?
The 9th grade was...
Because when I look at the 10th grade number, 9th is bigger than 10th, but I don't remember what.
Yeah, it was approximately the same as
Okay.
last year. A little
Okay.
larger. But I think we had a larger group coming in as well. A little
Okay.
larger, yeah.
Thank you.
And then it stayed pretty consistent after that. Any other questions? All right, so now we're going to move.
Well, actually, I do have one, and that is just that I would expect that, and I was looking at the numbers at the bottom, where it's ECP and Smith Voc, and I know that that's a different category that probably will not be affected dramatically by the new building. But if we, I guess I'm just suggesting that as we look forward to the opening of the new building in the spring of 2013, I imagine that that's only going to increase the likelihood that more people are going to stay in the system, and that how we begin to plan for that, I don't think it's too soon. I don't want to be overly optimistic, but I think it's prudent that we begin now to expect to see the one positive consequence of the new building being constructed, that more students are going to be opting in, and that we're going to continue to see that growth and how we manage it. Because I think, for example, you know, in every bit of good news, there are challenges. The 2nd grade class sizes. You know, we have a really big 2nd grade right now, and I could see that the new school building could create that. And do we? When does the process start for planning? You know, I assume that already Mr. Orlando and Mr. Luce are working on what happens in 3rd grade when this large 2nd grade class moves up and through. Is that? Do we do it just year by year?
Pretty much. Numbers change also from October till the end of the school year. So we have students move in, we have students move out. So we really can't do a great deal of planning until closer to the end of the school year. Thinking about, and we also have students move in over the summer or move out over the summer. So it's a constantly moving target, and we do the best we can to anticipate and predict class sizes and address those needs.
And I guess just so that the piece doesn't get left out, could you remind folks the net benefit of a student who might otherwise choice out of the system financially? Let's say that someone inspired by the construction of the new high school building who's in the middle school now and says, you know, I'm really excited about the educational opportunities that are going to come out of that new building. By their decision to stay in the system and not go out, what does that do to our...
Well, for every student who goes out to a charter school, they take $10,000 of income with them, and to choicing out to another public school district, $5,000. So, yeah,
Just,
It's
you
a
know,
good amount of money that we lose through choice and charter.
thank you.
Just a quick comment, Peter, fifth grade is a pretty good size too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember, Ms. Rebello talking about balancing teachers,
Right. But that-
preparing for this big fifth grade class.
Yeah, we had a struggle to,
Yeah.
get that into place,
Yep.
but, you know, we've done a lot of work to make that work well,
Mhm.
and to keep that small, more elementary feel to our fifth grade classrooms.
And if the numbers hold, when those fifth graders or eighth graders, it's gonna be a crowded fifth grade too, because
Yeah.
that second grade
Oh,
will be
right.
up there by then.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, and that's sort of, I think, the long-term planning for what's your building gonna be like when you've got these big bookends of
Mm.
classes of 145, and, you know,
Well, and as you know, we've had to eliminate teaching positions because of budget cuts, because there were more teachers at all grade levels at the
Right.
middle school originally. And slowly we've been reducing those through the budget cuts that we've had to make. So we are going to have to look carefully at that, you know, as we create the budget for the upcoming year.
One more question, Pete. The folks at Lower Pioneer Valley, do you have a number on that?
The folks at
The high school students that are going to the collaborative?
I don't off the top of my head. I think it's, you want the total number, Mike? Is that what you're
Well,
looking at, or
just
the number this year?
Curious as to how many total students are going for vocational programming as opposed to the strictly academic programming that we offer at the high school.
I know we did have fewer going to the Lower Pioneer Valley program this year than in years past, but I don't think it was substantially different. The years fluctuate with that as well, and what happens is sometimes a class starts out at a larger number, and again, with Lower Pioneer Valley, the class sizes decrease as the years go on, as some students decide not to continue to pursue that
And they're still
vocational.
our students, so we don't lose
That's right.
them. Different
That's
than
right.
when they were at Smith,
That's
and
right.
that would happen, they would just sort of get lost at Smith because they weren't connected to the high
Yes,
school.
exactly. And there's a difference in tuition for Smith
Right.
and career tech as well.
I'm sorry, I'm gonna slow us down even more. But I just wanna come back to that second grade, fifth grade comparison, because in the fifth grade, in the middle school, if we add teachers back, we have the physical spaces for those classrooms to meet. Is that true at the elementary level? My sense when I walk through the buildings is, we're pretty close to capacity usage. Do you want me to talk?
Yeah.
Would you mind just quickly telling, you know, this is probably pretty thinly veiled as to where I'm going with this, but I'm anticipating that, what's the answer to that question?
Well, the answer for next year, in the immediate future, is that I'm certainly going to have to ask some teachers to change classrooms. We have a very small, one of our third grades is in a very small space, and it cannot hold 25 students in there. So in terms
But I
of
know
planning, you're
one of
asking
your
about
fourth
planning,
grade-
I mean, that's you know, planning for next year directly. If we added a section, Maple School does have a classroom.
Okay, so we
But that
could-
would, which, you know, we have had unbalanced schools before. We had an additional first grade section, I think, 4 or 5 years ago. The only, which is great, the only drawback, it's not really a drawback, the only thing to consider with that is that when we have to,
When they then
we have to
transition to next
decide
grade.
whether that teacher follows that group from grade to grade.
Right.
Or if we're gonna keep the same amount of teachers in the following grade, then now we're moving kids from, you know, potentially Maple School back into Center Pepin to even the classes out. So, does that make sense?
Sure, so it would be fair to say that if we had a new single community-wide elementary school, this would not be as much of a
It
problem?
would not be
Okay.
a factor at all.
Just want to be sure that was clear. Thanks.
Yeah, or if you had a major renovation project at 2 existing school locations, you still wouldn't have that problem.
Right, okay.
And that's the answer that has to still
Yep.
be determined, and maybe it's time for another futures group of the school committee, or next year. You know, we've got 2 years of building this high school,
Right.
and it's gonna, you know, it's gonna take all of our focus,
Sure
at
is.
least on our side, for that project. But if the school committee thinks that that's something that needs to be discussed, because I don't know that the community is settled on one or the other of those yet.
But I think that the broader point is that the trends suggest that as Easthampton becomes an attractive place to live and to go to school, and we see these numbers already, we first have to begin finding ways in the budget to add back the teachers in the middle school, you know, any grade, second grade, a middle school grade, a high school grade, and then figure out the best way to find a physical space to organize that quality education. So I know that was not expected, so I appreciate your help with that. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions on enrollment for now? All right, then we'll move forward on the agenda to the school improvement plans. The administrators have been working hard this year. As you know, we developed a new strategic plan and a new template for our school and program improvement plans tied to the district improvement plan, which is our strategic plan. And we've actually had some very good meetings as a leadership team, talking with each other about our school and program improvement plans, making suggestions to each other about the plans, and looking to make sure that they're aligned with the new strategic plan, our district improvement plan. So I'm going to ask Allison Ribello, principal of Whitebrook, to come forward first and talk about her plan. And we also, in creating these plans, kept the focus on improving student outcomes. That's what we're looking at, the instructional core, improving the instructional core and improving student outcomes. So.
I'm sorry, just one quick point of clarification. In terms of the documents that we have in front of us, the first document in each section, the school improvement plan, that's coming from the strategic draft plan that's still being reviewed, correct?
That's right.
And then after that, so like page 1 is the generic for the whole district, and then the next one is the page that you prepared, and we're going from there.
That's
Okay,
right.
I just want to make sure I was following along.
The page 1 replicates the strategic plan that I shared with you at one of our meetings. It's just in a different format to match the school and program improvement plans.
I like this format.
We keep tweaking
I was
it.
going to say, it's something that we're all getting used to and trying to figure out how it works for all of us and how we link it to the strategic plan and make sure there's that unison there. So the first goal, one of the things you'll notice about Whitebrook's school improvement plan is that you'll notice some new initiatives in there, as well as some places where we're continuing work that we started last year, and then looking at what are those next steps. So the first goal is to improve student achievement in math in grades 5 through 8 through the implementation of the new math expressions program in grades 5 and 6, through staff collaboration, and through analyzing student work. And so the first piece that needs to be done is to provide professional development in the math expressions program in grades 5-6. So that's something that was started last year. We piloted the math expressions program in grade 5, and this year we will be continuing that pilot in grade 6. So it will be continuing in grade 5 still, but we need to continue that on to grade 6, which is the second step. And we need to provide that professional development to the teachers who will be using that program and curriculum. And then the second piece that needs to happen is that with all publishing companies, they a lot of times will align the curriculum with the core curriculum or the state standards by using a vocabulary sort of database. And so one of the things that our teachers have been working on is really truly looking at the program, the math expressions program, and seeing where does it truly align with the Common Core. And so that happened last year with 5th grade. We need to continue that with 6th grade and make sure that everything is aligned and which lessons align more to the Common Core and which ones are either above grade level or below grade level. Which leads to our third goal, which is to create mini units for standards that aren't addressed in math expressions. So the math expressions program, we've seen a lot of good feedback in our first year. The teachers are excited. I think I might have shared last year about the algebraic work that some of the 5th graders were doing with the math expressions, but there are some gaps that we're noticing, and so teachers this year will be working on mini units to make sure that we're addressing each of the math standards, so that we're not leaving anything out in 5th and 6th grade. And then some of the work that we had done last year was starting to look at student work, and sort of our next step this year is to really start to analyze that work and collaborate with each other as teachers, as special ed teachers, as other support staff, and develop action plans to be able to meet the student needs. So in the past, we may have given common assessments that were created, or teachers were working on those common assessments, and now this year, not only do we need to give them, but we need to go that next step, which is to analyze what did the students do, and then have that inform the teacher's practice. And so that's sort of our next step this year that we're really working on. And again, 5 goes right along with that, with implementing the common assessments and using that data to later inform instruction. So, okay, we have these common assessments. What does it show us about our weaknesses that we need to improve upon with students so we can differentiate instruction? What is it that it's showing that our students are really strong on? Because we don't want to wait until the end of the year when we have the MCAS given and find out, oh, they were struggling with this or they weren't doing well on this. And then the last piece, as I mentioned, is to really have that collaboration between regular ed, special education, ELL, which is our English language learners, to better differentiate instruction. So looking at how do we provide for our special education students and provide what they need? How do we have regular ed teachers working with our special ed teachers and special ed teachers working with our regular ed teachers to really have that collaboration and work? And one of the things that you might have remember me saying last year is that one of our goals last year was to restructure our special education to better meet the needs of our students. And so we have teachers who are teaching just math for special education and teachers who are teaching just ELA. And so this is where I'm saying that we're continuing with the plan from last year. So we did that piece, and now this year that will allow for our math teachers to be able to go to our math meetings and not have to worry about trying to jump from math and English language arts. And then you can see the evidence of progress of how you will know and how our teachers will know and how I will know that these things are happening and getting the feedback. And then as a district, we are focusing on writing across the content areas. And so that's our second goal at Whitebrook, is how do we use writing across the content areas, so looking at science, social studies, our exploratories, our physical education classes. How do we have writing happening in all areas to help improve our student achievement? One of the things from analyzing our MCAS is that open response tends to be an area that we continue to struggle with. So instead of having it be our English language arts teachers who have to focus on the writing, how do we get that writing to happen in math, in science, in social studies, so it's happening across the board, so students are practicing that writing and seeing what good responses look like. One of the ways that we're going to do that is by expanding our formative assessments to include writing, such as exit cards, graphic organizers, open response questions, to at least one time a week. And so really holding students accountable for that happening and ensuring that teachers are making sure that that's happening at least one time a week. Also continue to create writing opportunities for students, which create higher order thinking. Again, in looking at our walkthrough data from last year, we know that higher order thinking questions and prompts are happening in classrooms, but we want to improve upon that so that students are continually seeing questions that are at a higher order thinking level. And that can be done through open response questions, essays on test, a beginning of the day prompt that gets students to think more. We're working with Shirley Gilfeather and our outside consultant to provide professional development on the writing to learn. Right now, our 7th and 8th grade teachers are working with the high school teachers on the writing to learn professional development. And then our 5th and 6th grade teachers, starting in January, will be going through the same training at the 5th and 6th grade level for the writing to learn. And then again, just like math, we need to take the next step with what we've done last year, which is to use the data from our formative assessments to identify student need and to inform current instruction. And so one of the things that we'll be asking our teachers to do is to create action plans that are more concrete, that we can see about how are we going to help our students now that we've given these formative assessments. How does that inform their practice and where they need to go with the writing? And that will happen in all areas. We had some great conversations already with even our exploratory teachers, so in art, in music, and health, and how do we bring writing into all of those areas as well. And they've gotten excited about how they can become a part as opposed to feeling like a separate identity in the school. So how can they be, a part of what's happening across the board? And then our third goal, I'm really excited about, because one of the things that, you know, Mrs. Borowski and I and the staff and school council has been really trying to create more of a sense of community at Whitebrook. And we've seen more engagement by parents in the school. We've seen more family input. And we want to increase and build upon that with school, home, and also bringing in the community piece. This last goal actually came out of our school council meetings. I'm really excited about our school council that we're working with this year. There's a lot of great parents and lots of great teachers that are on board. And this goal was really created with them. And so parents had suggested that, you know, another way of getting parents involved is that they've enjoyed seeing our transition, and parents who have been involved, I would say, in the transition from the elementary to Whitebrook have seen changes being put in place, and they thought that that was successful. But one more step of doing that is to create a flyer for to give to our 4th grade parents that will tell them about all the different ways that they can become involved at Whitebrook. So instead of, you know, our beginning of the year, here's some ways to volunteer, and they don't understand what some of those are, but giving it out in the spring and saying, you know, here's what Fine Arts Night is like, or here's what this event is like, so they can better prepare for that. One of the other ways that we've noticed to get more parents into the school is anytime, of course, that you have the students involved. So we're finding that if I try to do a parent night, or Mrs. Borowski's there trying to do a parent night, we get maybe 4 parents to show up. They may be interested in the topic, but with all the other activities that are going on between soccer and football and, you know, cheerleading, and I don't know how all of you parents keep up with what your children are doing, but with all of those events, we find that it's difficult. They don't want to come in and just hear us talk. But our nights that have been really successful are our fine arts night, our band night, our chorus nights. And why? Because the students are involved. So we're looking at, you know, how can we get the students involved in showing ways of math and writing so they can show what they're learning in school, because parents will want to come to hear what their kids have to say. And so we're looking at that. Also creating a letter to parents explaining the research on why parent involvement is so important and why that engagement is crucial to helping their students, and also providing a menu of opportunities. So we know that some parents want to be involved, and they already are through our school council, through our STEP, through our parent group. But what are some other ways that parents who, you know, may want to be involved but can't commit to that amount of time? So what are some smaller things that they can do to show engagement and involvement in the school? I'm really excited about our school senate. This is something that I have wanted to start since I started here 3 years ago, and it's finally off the ground, up and running. We had our first meeting on October 6th. We're going to be meeting with these school senate representatives twice a month. So we met with them the first time. They were so eager and excited to share all the different things that they are liking about Whitebrook, what they want to change about Whitebrook, and also having that voice in their homerooms to be able to share what administration sees as concerns, or what we want them to share with the students. And so, you know, they took their first test seriously. They went to the homerooms and said, so what do you want us to bring forward as your representative? And they were all prepared for our first meeting and had all of that. So this is really exciting, and I'm eager to share with you how this goes as the year goes on. We're continuing with the CARES wall and the student recognition wall. That's something that Mrs. Borowski has been, you know, hugely involved in, along with Ms. Cleary and Ms. Vanas, with trying to recognize students for our CARES, our acronym for all the different things that we see that's important for middle school students. And we have our wall going, and students are really trying to support each other. And this is the first year that we've had students nominating other students for the wall. So in the past, it's been more staff nominated, where they see students really doing well, but we're bringing that alive. And then our last thing, that we had school council before I came here, and we're starting to brainstorm a list of ways that we can get parents more involved in the school, and also the community more involved in the school. That's sort of the brief of it, but I don't know if you have any questions on any parts, or.
Mine is not really a question, it's more of a suggestion. It sounds like that might be, it might be good for us and for your students if your student senate representative or who, in some way, that they can make contact with our new student representative to the school committee, so that the ideas and the concerns at the middle school are heard here also, that it's not just the concerns of the high school students. So hopefully there will be some way that there
Excuse
can
me.
be a meetup.
Well, maybe, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt if anyone was going to speak, but I have a pretty busy schedule, but I think maybe I'd be able to fit in a visit to those meetings, or just someone that's working with the middle school, and just kind of see what their concerns are and then bring them up, like you said.
Great.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I can contact you, or
Okay.
we can figure it out later if you'd like.
All right, that'd be great.
Other questions, comments? I have one. At a meeting soon, I hope, we're gonna do some open response questions. The school committee, because I think some of us, we hear about them all the time. And, just seeing what you're talking about, I think people understand. And since it has been pointed to, it would be great to see a couple of what these questions are and maybe walk us through them.
I think we're gonna try to maybe coordinate that with our little supper.
Right.
Right.
Oh, there you go.
We're just gonna see them, though. We're not gonna actually
No,
do
no,
them.
you have to do
You're
it.
smarter than your fifth grade.
I was gonna say, you could actually do them, and then
Before-
we can look at the rubric
before
and see where you're
January.
Right, see how you did compared to.
Before
Yeah.
January.
Yes, right.
I have, this is not a
October.
question for Allison, but the links to, the key to links to strategic initiatives is, I'm confused, what's EE and?
Okay,
is-
so
what's-
to just sort of abbreviate a little bit, if you take a look at the district, strategic plan, so when it says
Okay.
SA, that stood for student achievement, and then
Oh.
the number was just what correlates with
Got it.
that. And
Okay.
then the EE is educator excellence.
It was
then the-
teacher excellence.
It was
but
teacher excellence, and
in-
now
in-
it's
Okay.
educator
It's been
excellence.
Okay.
And then RA would be the resource alignment.
Okay, got it. Great.
You'll do better on open response.
Yes, I will. That was my first curveball.
Any other questions for Allison? Thank you, Allison.
Thank you.
Very thorough plan. All right, and next we have Rob Orlando, I think, yeah, we got you next in the
We're
packet.
together.
Oh, you're gonna do it together, all right. Rob Orlando and Tim Luce, our principals from Center Pepin and Maple.
We are literally tag teaming it because our school improvement plans are aligned with each other very, very closely this year. I don't know if you've noticed that or not. We each have 4 objectives. 3 of them are the same. So I'm going to talk about the first one. Rob will do the others that we have in common, and then we'll each talk about the one that are unique to our school. So the first one we're talking about is implementing the new math expressions program in K through 4. And this is exciting for a lot of reasons. We've been looking at for several years a new math program for the district. Piloted several different models in various classrooms 2 years ago. Last year began a partial implementation of the math expressions. This year, the entire K through 4 is in every classroom is implementing it. So this first goal is really all about supplying teachers with the materials that they need to make that happen, providing them with the professional development that they need to help them understand the program, the language, and so forth, and then continually provide them with that type of professional development as they go and experiences for the first year. The other thing that's exciting about this is that, as you heard Mrs. Rubella say, this is moving up to the middle school as well. So we'll have this math expressions all through the elementary school, and the students will continue with this as they move up to Whitebrook. So that's great. In addition to the professional development, there'll be ongoing teacher meetings. Ms. Rubella mentioned the fact that we need to align this series with the Common Core standards and looking for places where there might be gaps. That'll be happening when our teachers' grade level teams meet together. We're also looking at our math, at our assessments that we currently have, and we'll need to adjust those so that they align with the program and also with the Common Core. So that's another piece that we'll be doing. And then of course we'll be analyzing all of this data to determine if, where we need to make adjustments to the program and tweak it. So that's pretty much the first one.
Okay, our second goal is to increase family engagement. And I think you see a common theme here. Mr. Bell also talked about how she's going to be focusing on this as well. I think Superintendent Follansbee has really made it clear to the entire leadership team that we're all working towards the same end, but it'll make us a more effective district in the end. So I think you'll see that theme with all the school improvement plans. So both Maple School and Center Pepin have started parent volunteer programs, and these have been really grassroots movements at each building. We have two parents who have done an amazing job of collecting a database of volunteers and engaging our parents in the many volunteer opportunities we have in the school. Megan Frazier is at Center Pepin School, and Audrey Heinevan is at Maple School. They've done a great job, and they've also worked together and collaborated together, which is a nice feature as well. We've already seen the fruits of this at Center Pepin. I'm sure Maple has as well. We had a tremendous turnout this summer for a painting project. We painted both main offices in the building, in addition into a classroom. We had a playground cleanup. We've had 10 brand new families volunteer to run our book fair this week, which is great. So we're getting some new families into the building. So I've already seen some really positive outcomes of having this coordinated parent volunteer effort, which is important. It does take a lot to coordinate parents coming in. And both Audrey and Megan have done an amazing job. So we're going to continue that work.
Rob, could you just mention those names again? You
Sure,
said
it's Megan Frazier.
Yep, and
Audrey Heinevan, right? Heinevan?
Thank you.
I can't spell that.
We'll get it right. Thank you.
In addition, Tim and I talked about our school councils collaborating to plan some family engagement nights. When the parent liaison position sort of changed over the last couple of years, this whole piece sort of fell by the wayside. We had individual school events, but Tim and I really felt strongly that we wanted to have some elementary-wide events. So this is going to be reestablishing some of those elementary events, and we provided some examples of those: author nights, performances, hands-on activities like science nights and crafts nights. So we're going to get our school councils together and use that body to do that planning and engage that group of people to do that work. In addition, we're going to be planning some school vacation enrichment events. One of the pieces of feedback that I know that we hear a lot is those school vacation weeks get kind of long for parents, and they run out of things to do with their kids. So I started at Center Pepin. We ran a trip to the aquarium in Boston last April that was highly sought after. And really, if you looked at the parents and the kids who went on that trip, it was some of our more reluctantly engaged families, maybe some families that have really difficult work schedules, can't get into the building as much as they like to. And so we had a nice mix of families engaged in that event. And so our goal is to expand that, to provide some opportunities for families to keep a connection with the school, for kids to keep connection with each other, and sort of fill that time in a way that's going to enrich the kids' lives during those vacation times. And then lastly, conduct principal-parent forums throughout the year. And this is really going to be hitting the streets. I had the idea of, I think Allison mentioned it, when we have parent nights that are not attended by kids, our attendance isn't so good, and for various reasons, and some of them very valid. So one of my ideas was instead, if they're not going to come to us, we're going to go to them. So I've started the process of trying to find some host families, and my idea is to sort of split up our neighborhoods and sort of go into homes and to almost have little meetings inside someone's house. Thinking that they could bring their kids, it's sort of, it's right next door, it's right down the street. It's a little bit less formal, it feels a lot more informal when you're just sitting in someone's living room and talking about things. So I don't know how it's going to go, but we're going to give it a try and see if we can get some more input from our families, because it is really important. I think, Allison spoke to this, that we're engaging all of our families as best we can.
Great idea.
So our next goal is to implement a consistent instructional word study practice in grades K through 4. Word study is a sort of a fancy name for, I'm sort of generalizing a little bit, for spelling. It's a main component of spelling. Right now, we do not, in the elementary level, have a consistent approach or program for spelling instruction. It really stems out of our work in guided reading. We do have some teachers using different models, and we're sort of at the same place with this as we were with reading instruction 3 years ago. Now we have this great, consistent approach to our reading instruction. The hope is that we get there too with our word study program. So to get there, we need to do some professional development. That's going to be started in January with Stanford Roth, who's been doing our guided reading professional development for us. We need to allocate some resources, time and materials to support this implementation. As with the math, our grade level teams will be meeting to discuss strategies as we go forward. And as always, we will be analyzing, of course, our implementation to see if what we're doing is effective with kids. The caveat with that is, since we're starting in January, we're not expecting to see huge growth in a short amount of time, but certainly we want to see our kids moving in an upward direction so that we can support the district initiative of writing across the content areas, which is where the elementary level will be going fully starting in September of next year. So, and then for Center Pepin School, unique to Center Pepin, our last goal is to integrate instructional technology into classroom practice to support formative assessment. So that sounds wordy. What does that mean? So we want to use tech. We've bought a lot of equipment, a lot of technological equipment, and our classrooms are getting outfitted with what I think are the most up-to-date pieces of technology. So that's step one. Step two is for teachers to be comfortable using the technology, and then step three is really refining the effective use of this technology. So we're really at the point now where we're refining our practice and trying to use it more effectively. So we were lucky at Center Pepin to receive a grant through Pioneer Valley Books for iPads in our first grade classroom. We received 6 iPads that with a new application that was developed by Pioneer Valley Books that has first grade titles on the iPads. It's really new technology, so part of our job is to sort of use it and provide feedback to Pioneer Valley Books about what did you like, what didn't you like, what can we change to make this application more user-friendly for kids. And the trade-off is we get to use the technology for the whole year within the classroom. Mary Cleary, she just got married last week, Mary Frank, is the teacher who's going to be utilizing the iPads in her classroom with her first grade learners. So she's excited to get to dive into using these, and she'll be actually starting. A lot of the first month is getting kids established to routine, what guided reading looks like. So she's going to be using those very shortly in her classroom. Secondly, we're going to be automating our library inventory in our school library. The reason we're doing this is one of the things we run into with our students is when they go down to the school library, our students are trying to select titles that might be out of their range, maybe a little bit too difficult for them. So by automating our library, number one, we'll be joining the 21st century because most libraries now are automated. The card catalog isn't being used as much in libraries in situations.
Repurposed.
Yeah, exactly. And secondly, we'll be able to track which books kids are picking more effectively through our database so that we find students aren't taking enough fiction out, then we can certainly sway them in that direction, or if they're not taking enough nonfiction out, which is usually where our students struggle on the reading comprehension part of the MCAS test, we can encourage them to take out some more nonfiction. So really, it's going to make us accountable to getting kids to pick out materials that are more appropriate for them. And then lastly, we're going to pilot a student computer response system in the classroom. The generic word for those are clickers, student clickers. It's sort of like Jeopardy in the classroom. So each student is outfitted with a clicker, and a teacher might ask a question of the class, and they instantly, they respond, and the teacher has data right in front of them about how students are responding on that piece of information. So right now, we are using formative assessment, which is, we have teachers using whiteboards, so they might ask the students to respond to something on a whiteboard and hold it up. So then the teacher has to sort of look at each kid and see how they are. This is going to be a much more efficient, we'll still do that, but this might be a more efficient use of time to have students using this piece of technology. So we're going to try that in one classroom.
Your gross data is easier that way. The individualized piece of it is still.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. So we're going to try that in a classroom and then get feedback about how that goes, and then look to, obviously go into other classrooms with that piece of technology.
then we have another goal unique to Maple, which is to create a safe school environment, kind of similar to Allison's goal about creating a sense of community. And this came about by discussions among our staff, that we've done a lot with our school over the years in creating a positive school environment, but it was just an area that we really wanted to continue to beef up. So the first one is talking about reviewing the Second Step program. And before I get into that, though, I just want to say that you know, Senator Pepin had the technology goal that's unique to theirs. We have this goal that's unique to us. Both of us are doing things in both of these areas, but just aren't, you know, specific in our plan. So I just want to make that clear, because I know, you know, Senator Pepin's doing a lot of these same things too, as we are with some of the technology. But Second Step is our program that we have in place throughout the elementary schools, which looks at character and the way we treat each other and things, problem solving, things like that. We've had it for several years. There was a training that was brought in, gosh, about 6 or 7 years ago. So we've had quite a bit of turnover on our staff since then. So one of the things that we did early in our first 3 days of PD was to kind of have a refresher from June Hardy, who was our school adjustment counselor, on the use of that program. And then ongoing, we'll be looking at making sure that we are implementing that program on an ongoing basis. The next one was some professional development on de-escalation techniques. And basically, the idea here is that when there's a confrontation between a child and an adult, we as adults can either push that into a further confrontation, or we can use techniques to kind of calm the situation down, to de-escalate the situation. And there's some very specific ideas and techniques that we can use to help with that, and it helps to prevent something from might have been a small incident to becoming something bigger. Recognizing what might be causing a student to become upset and those kinds of things. And this is training that is ongoing with the staff that's in our behavior programs at both buildings. But we've never really brought it to the general ed staff before. So that was part of what we tried to do in the first 3 days. We do have the bullying policy and program that we put into place last year. So we really are going to take some time. We did at the beginning of the year, and we will continue to make sure that our staff is very well aware of all the steps and procedures in that, and looking at ways to prevent the possible bullying. And then finally, developing a school-wide program to recognize students that basically are doing the right thing, that are rewarding those children that are treating each other well and things like that. We started this by introducing a book the other day at our all-school meeting. Well, I'll just give you a quick one. The concept is that we all walk around with a bucket with us all day, and if we do things to fill our bucket, we feel better. We feel rejuvenated. We feel good, and as we can fill each other's buckets, we can fill our own bucket. We can also dip into others' buckets by saying things that aren't kind and ignoring others or excluding others. So we talked about being a bucket filler and a bucket dipper. So I think we introduced that book to the school this last week, and we're going to continue with that concept and make it a school-wide program to recognize the bucket fillers. So that's it.
Questions? Thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry.
Rob, you mentioned the library. Is automating that? And is that done by volunteers? Who? I imagine that takes.
Well, it can be done a couple different ways. When I was in East Long Meadow, the librarian did it just sort of on her prep time and just sort of picked at it over the course of a whole year.
Right.
I envision more bringing volunteers in to expedite the process, because we have quite the collection in our school library.
Because right now we actually don't have a librarian. We have
a library paraprofessional.
We have a library paraprofessional.
Yep.
I mean, I think that's great, and that's great that I assume teachers will be able to tap in, and they'll be able to understand what books their students are
Absolutely.
taking out.
The nice thing about it's going to be the same database that the high school is using, and I believe the middle school is using as well. So it's web-based, so you can access it from a classroom computer.
Uh-huh. Oh, great. That's great.
Yep.
Just that topic alone made me think that we really haven't discussed libraries, the role of the library in a while. Something we tossed around quite a bit a couple of years back. And I think, our attention to technology has maybe distracted us as a group from it, but it might be worthwhile to just look at. And because of budgetary concerns, I think we've been willing and had to maybe not invest in those programs as much as we'd like, but and I totally understand that, but it's just something you might want to make sure we don't fall too far behind on. So anyway, that's all.
And I just wanted to commend the two of you. Your goals are very similar, and it's just nice to see. I know Nancy's been working hard, and you've been working hard at bringing a lot of what the two schools do on the same level, and it's really just showing that it's rolling forward. So easy, as you both know, to get in those separate personalities and separate classroom, how things run, but clearly you've worked hard to bring everything to the same level and doing everything the same, and that's very commendable, so, and important.
Well, and I like to see that flow from the elementary that I think they both were talking about to the middle school. The similarities between the plans, or among the plans, that was very rewarding to hear. Not that I haven't heard it before, but hearing you talk about it, presenting it, I think it just brings it home all the more.
As we try to prioritize in the budget-making process, and I know this is a cold question, so I'd invite you to come back later with a thought about it. We have remarked recently, as Eric just did, about areas like technology and technology support. You identified one of the important things is helping the teachers feel comfortable with it. I'm impressed that you're actually down to working on effective uses of the technology, because in my own experience, there's a wide range of teacher comfort level with using the technology, and part of that is related to how quickly you can get support when things don't go exactly as you anticipate. My question would be that with a limited set of resources, whether you think we should prioritize additional resources for the libraries or for the technological support in the classroom. And again, I'm not asking you to respond to that right now. If you want to,
And
you
just say
can.
yes.
Right.
Yes,
I know
yes.
the correct answer is both. More of both, please. And that day I hope will come. But in the meantime, it would be useful as we're trying to calibrate a series of wish lists and sort of help the superintendent and the admin team in developing budgets going forward, looking at that particular tough choice. I mean, Eric's identified these in successive meetings, and I would agree that both matter.
I might say that I think we've engaged in a process, an ongoing process of really analyzing what's going on in the district in order to identify our needs. Both in the library area, good point, Eric, that we don't want to lose sight of that, but also in technology. So I don't know that it's an either or, but
Right.
Thinking about how we best meet.
The only
those
thing that
needs.
comes to mind without giving an answer, because we would have to have a discussion about this, is that looking at the new high school and the technology infrastructure that's going to be in place there, one of my concerns going forward is that, and I don't know this answer because it's not what I'm privy to. How is that infrastructure and the technology needs there going to impact the technology department's ability to work as they do now? And I don't have the answer to that. It's just something to be proactively, we're 2 years out, so it's just something to be proactively thinking about. Again, not knowing all the components of what that looks like, but knowing that it's going to be state of the art and a lot of the systems are going to be automated and run through the network, it would be a question I would have.
And I just wanted to make two other comments that I was thinking about as you were talking. So, Rob, when you were talking about using the clickers, I just went to a training for superintendents last Friday on the teacher evaluation system and the teacher standards. And the presenter used a interactive whiteboard with the clickers, and he had us using those clickers during the whole training. Now, I've read lots about them. I've seen them used minimally in classrooms, but I had the opportunity myself, and I could see how it really did promote student engagement and gave the presenter or teacher a real clear picture of where the understandings were in the group. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. And the other comment was, Tim, when you were talking about your book about the buckets, how we all carry buckets around. I was at the Spiffy and Easthampton Task Force meeting on Friday, meet and greet meeting. The mayor was there and a number of other people. And a parent sitting in the group, we got into small groups for discussion, talked about how her daughter had come home and talked about this bucket, and that we each had buckets and how we had to fill them up. So they had a great conversation at home, about that, which I think is wonderful. That that we're engaging parents in that way. So, thank you both.
Thank you.
Terrific. Okay, so we have some matters for action.
Move to approve the minutes of the school committee meeting for September 27th, 2011.
Second?
Motion made and seconded to approve the minutes for the school committee meeting of September 27th. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. And money matters.
Money matters. Move to approve the school payroll dated October 6, 2011 in the amount of $445,475.82.
Second.
Motion made and made and seconded to approve the school payroll dated 6 October 2011 in the amount of $445,475.82. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Move to approve the accounts payable authorization for payment dated October 6, 2011 in the amount of $212,556.52.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the accounts payable authorization dated 6 October 2011 in the amount of $212,556.52. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
That's it.
That's it? Okay. And then we have a couple of field trips.
Move to approve the Whitebrook field trip to Washington DC at the end of May, and the high school field trip to High Meadows in the beginning of June.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve the middle school field trip to Washington DC and the high school field trip to High Meadows. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Move to open a grade 2 school choice slot
Second.
at Pepin.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions for clarification on that? Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Another motion.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much, folks. Have a great night.
Thanks again, Ryan.